My sister-in-law took the names of all my miscarried babies and gave them to her own children, then switched my prenatal vitamins in an attempt to cause another miscarriage. She truly believed I wouldn't fight back. What's the sweetest revenge you've ever tasted? For me, it was getting involved with my enemy's brother. For years, I struggled with infertility, but not in a simple way. I was the kind of infertile that carried hope, only to lose it. I experienced 3 miscarriages, each in the second trimester. Most people around me were supportive, except my sister-in-law. The first time I broke down in her lap, she stroked my hair and promised she would always stand by me. She even said that when her daughter was born, I would be the godmother. I started to see her as one of my closest friends. 2 weeks later, at her baby shower, she revealed her baby's name. The moment she said it, my stomach turned. Faye, the exact name I had chosen for my unborn daughter. When I confronted her, she shrugged and said, "It's not like you were going to use it." Her tone was mocking, and her words cut deeply. When my husband came over to ask what was wrong, I explained. Instead of reacting with anger, he laughed it off. Men can be unaware sometimes, so I waited until we were in the car to explain it again. My husband was the love of my life, but he was passive, shaped by years of being the family scapegoat. The kind of person who would get robbed and apologize for not having more to give. "That's just how she is," he sighed. I convinced myself that at least my daughter's name would live on in some form. I focused on improving my health, doing Pilates, eating clean, but nothing changed. A year and a half later, I lost another baby. Weeks afterward, while standing in the aisle at Walgreens, I saw a social media post from my sister-in-law announcing her second son. "Welcome, baby James. Thanks to Emma for the name inspiration. Her loss is my gain," followed by a pregnant emoji and a skull. When she later used the name Charlotte, my third miscarriage's name, I felt nothing. She even sent nursery photos captioned, "Bet you wish this was for your Charlotte." My husband continued defending her, insisting I was overreacting about names and photos. After 4 years, I stopped hoping for a child. Meanwhile, Sarah was pregnant with her fourth and joked at family dinners about which name she would steal next. Everyone laughed except me. That night, something shifted. If she wanted another name, I would give her one she'd never forget. At the next family gathering, I privately told Sarah I had found a hidden middle name in my late mother's diary, Lexativa. I claimed it meant sacred child in an ancient dialect. I even fabricated diary pages and created a Pinterest board about honoring deceased grandparents through baby names. Sarah embraced it immediately and announced publicly that her daughter would be named Lexativa Rose, celebrating our family heritage. That revenge felt sufficient until 8 months later, when life surprised me. I was pregnant again, well into the 3rd trimester. For the first time, I allowed myself to feel joy. We waited to announce it, wanting certainty. That same week, Sarah invited us to her baby shower. I wore a loose dress that concealed my pregnancy. My husband supported my decision completely. Sarah hosted her largest shower yet, complete with family and followers from her mommy blog who had been tracking baby Lexativa's journey. As she delivered a speech about discovering this sacred name, I stood up. "Actually, Sarah, I have something to share too," I said, smoothing my dress over my visible bump. The room fell silent. My mother-in-law dropped her glass. 29 weeks today," I announced. Congratulations filled the room, Sarah's face drained of color. Then my husband stood. "Sarah, you mentioned Lexativa in all your research." She repeated that it meant sacred child in an ancient language. "That's strange," he said calmly, holding up his phone. "Because when I Google Lexativa, I only find medical sites about constipation relief." Silence followed. I had to steady myself to keep from laughing. We left together, proud. But at 4 a.m., I woke to a sharp pain I recognized too well. At the hospital, the truth was confirmed. Another miscarriage. Tests later suggested that one of my prenatal gummies had been replaced with something harmful. I immediately suspected Sarah. The police couldn't prove anything. The bottle vanished and no specific substance was detected. For the first time, my husband stopped defending her. We found the empty vitamin bottle hidden in our outside trash. Sarah had been in our house 2 days earlier, claiming she wanted to help organize the nursery. I began documenting everything: texts, posts, cruel remarks. A pattern emerged. 3 weeks later, I made a disturbing discovery. Sarah's best friend, Catherine, worked at the pharmacy where I filled prescriptions. I confronted her during her shift. She denied involvement, but her hands trembled when I mentioned the vitamins. That evening, Sarah posted about toxic family members making false accusations. Her followers flooded my accounts with insults: jealous, unstable, attention-seeking. My husband deleted his social media after they targeted him too. We felt isolated in our own home. At the next family dinner, held at Sarah's house, she placed baby Lexativa's bassinet in the center of the dining room. Her comments about people who couldn't handle others' happiness were deliberate. While she stepped away, I noticed her laptop open to emails discussing fertility herbs and miscarriage remedies. I took photos. She caught me, lunged for my phone, and scratched my wrist. My husband witnessed it, and for once did not defend her. The next morning, she posted that I was mentally unstable and had attacked her. She even shared edited security footage to make it appear that I was snooping without provocation. Soon after, she filed a report with Child Protective Services, claiming I was unfit to adopt. She had somehow learned we had begun the adoption process months earlier. Complaints poured into the agency, over 50 messages repeating similar language. Then Catherine called, asking to meet privately. At a park, she confessed that Sarah had pressured her to switch my vitamins, claiming they were harmless herbs. Catherine admitted Sarah had blackmailed her over stolen medication. She warned me that Sarah had been stealing my mail and copying adoption paperwork. Catherine refused to testify, fearing for her job. We installed security cameras, changed the locks, and redirected our mail. It felt like preparation for battle. At Thanksgiving, Sarah made another announcement. She was pregnant again. Then she said, locking eyes with me, "If it's a girl, we're naming her Margaret after Emma's late mother." My mother had passed only 6 months earlier. That name was sacred to me. I stood so abruptly my chair fell. "You wouldn't dare," I said quietly. Sarah smiled. "Why not? It's beautiful. Someone should use it." My husband stood beside me. "That's enough, Sarah. You've crossed every possible line." "I?" Sarah's voice rose sharply. "She's the one who hacked into my computer. She's the one spreading lies." She claimed she was simply honoring family traditions by using the names of my deceased babies. My husband responded in a low, controlled tone. The room erupted. My father-in-law shouted about maintaining peace. Sarah's husband looked confused, asking for clarity. The children began crying. In the middle of the chaos, Sarah pulled out her phone and started live streaming to her mommy blog audience. "You can see how I'm being attacked by my own family," she told the camera. "All because I want to honor my sister-in-law's mother." My husband took my hand. "We're leaving." As we walked out, Sarah called after us. "Emma, you might want to check with the adoption agency. I heard they received some very interesting information about your mental health." We drove home without speaking. When we arrived, there was an urgent message from our adoption caseworker. My hands shook as I returned the call. She explained, in a carefully neutral tone, that they had received documentation claiming I had been hospitalized multiple times for psychiatric issues. "That isn't true," I said. "I've only ever been hospitalized for my miscarriages." She replied that they would need to investigate and requested my complete medical history. After the call, my husband found me crying on our bedroom floor. He held me and promised we would fight back. The next day, we went to the hospital to obtain my records. The administrator accessed my file and frowned. "There are entries here that don't belong." Someone had inserted fake psychiatric admissions into my electronic record, including diagnoses of delusional disorder and pathological lying. The administrator confirmed it was fraud and that they would investigate how the system had been accessed. It took 2 weeks to remove the false entries and document them as fraudulent. During that time, Sarah intensified her efforts. She created fake social media profiles in my name, posting erratic statements about wanting to steal babies. Anonymous tips were sent to my employer, questioning my stability. My husband began recording everything. He wore a small camera to document interactions with his family. His mother accused him of paranoia, but he no longer cared. The turning point came unexpectedly. Sarah's oldest daughter, Faye, now 8, called our house while her parents were out. "Aunt Emma," she said softly, "Mom makes us lie about you." My husband recorded as Faye explained that her mother rehearsed stories with them, claims that I was cruel, frightening, and disrespectful. "I don't want to lie anymore," she said. "You've never been mean to us." We saved the recording. By the next day, Sarah had posted that I was manipulating her children. Her followers escalated their harassment, including threats. Someone shared my workplace address, and protesters appeared outside my office with signs calling me a baby killer. My employer suggested I take leave until the situation calmed down. Effectively, I was suspended. My reputation, career, and adoption plans were collapsing. But Sarah continued. 2 weeks later, we attended my husband's grandmother's 90th birthday at a restaurant. Sarah arrived late, ensuring attention was on her. During the event, she followed me into the restroom. After confirming we were alone, she applied lipstick and spoke calmly. "You should give up. You'll never be a mother. The adoption agency has already rejected you. I have a friend who works there." I stayed silent, assuming my husband's camera would capture everything. She continued, admitting how easily she coordinated with Catherine at the pharmacy, a hospital contact who altered my records, and even a social worker. "Why?" I asked. "You married my brother," she said. "He was supposed to put me first. Then your fertility story made him care more about you. So you caused my miscarriages?" "I didn't cause anything," she replied. "You did that. I only helped nature with the last one. You're not meant to be a mother." I left without responding. But when my husband checked the recording later, the battery had died just before she entered the restroom. We had nothing. Soon after, Sarah's husband contacted mine and asked to meet. Instead of threatening us, he looked exhausted. He handed over a leather journal. "I found this. I think you should read it." The journal belonged to Sarah. Page after page detailed her plans to undermine me, her satisfaction at each miscarriage, and coordination with others. It also revealed disturbing actions toward other relatives, poisoning her mother-in-law's cat, sabotaging a cousin's wedding, and framing a college roommate. Her husband said he was filing for divorce and would testify if needed. We copied the journal before returning it. Before we could act, police arrived with a warrant, responding to a report that we were dealing illegal substances. They searched our home and found nothing. Afterward, we discovered a note under our doormat in Sarah's handwriting. "Stop now, or next time they'll find something." We decided to present everything to the family. At a family meeting, my husband connected his laptop to the television and displayed the journal entries, the photos from Sarah's computer, her husband's testimony, and Faye's recorded statement. The room remained silent as the evidence accumulated. When the journal entry about poisoning the cat was shown, my mother-in-law gasped. Sarah claimed it was fabricated. Her husband confirmed it was genuine. Other relatives began sharing their own experiences with her manipulation. Sarah's composure collapsed. She shouted accusations and threw a vase against the wall. "You'll never have what I have," she yelled. Her son James began crying, asking her to stop. She lunged toward me, and both husbands intervened. In the struggle, she shouted, "I should have used something stronger in those vitamins." The room went silent. Even she seemed to realize what she had admitted. My father-in-law told her to leave and not return. Her husband refused to let her take the children. The children went to their father. Sarah left alone. My mother-in-law apologized through tears for not believing me. The consequences followed quickly. Catherine confessed to switching my vitamins, providing evidence. Sarah's husband filed for emergency custody and a restraining order. Divorce papers cited the journal. Searches on her computer showed years of research into inducing miscarriages. Excerpts of her journal were leaked to her blog followers. Her public image collapsed. She lost her marriage, custody of her children, family support, and online platform. The adoption agency reinstated our application, noting that the coordinated attacks demonstrated resilience. 3 months later, my husband and I finalized the adoption of newborn twins. We named them Charlotte and James, reclaiming the names she had taken. As we signed the papers, I reflected on the journey. Sarah faced criminal charges for tampering with my vitamins, though her attorney sought a plea deal involving treatment. Her children thrived with their father. Faye resumed calling me Aunt Emma and asked to babysit the twins someday. As we drove home with our babies, my husband squeezed my hand. We had endured Sarah's campaign and emerged stronger. The twins rested quietly in their car seats. Sarah tried to take everything from me. In the end, she only destroyed herself. I had my family, my children, and my future restored. And Sarah was left with the consequences of her own choices. The courthouse adoption ceremony concluded at noon. By 12:30, Sarah was already creating disruption. My husband noticed her first, standing across the street from the courthouse steps where we were taking photos with Charlotte and James. She wore large sunglasses and a baseball cap, but her posture made her recognizable. "Don't look," he said quietly, positioning himself to shield the twins from her view. The photographer sensed the tension and suggested we move to the courthouse garden. As we walked, we heard quick footsteps behind us. Sarah had crossed the street. "Those were my names to give," she called out. Security stopped her before she got close. We watched as they escorted her away while she shouted about her rights as an aunt. The twins slept peacefully through their first official day as ours. Later that afternoon, we realized she had been more active than we thought. Our adoption announcement, posted by my mother-in-law with permission, had been screenshot and reposted on Sarah's new blog, accompanied by accusations about baby thieves and name stealers. Catherine texted a warning. Sarah had visited the pharmacy that morning, asking unusual questions about infant medications and allergies. Catherine refused to share any information and informed her manager, but the interaction unsettled everyone. That evening, we installed a doorbell camera. My husband also switched pediatricians to one across town as a precaution. The twins had their first checkup scheduled for the following week, and we were not taking risks. The next day, Sarah's husband called with troubling news. She had broken into his home while the children were at school, taking photo albums and baby clothes. She left a note demanding visitation. "The restraining order applies to the kids too," he said, "but she's becoming desperate." 3 days later, Sarah appeared at my husband's workplace. She waited in the parking garage and approached him as he walked to his car. He began recording immediately. "You turned everyone against me," she said, blocking his path. "Even my children won't speak to me." "Sarah, you're violating the restraining order," he replied. "That paper means nothing. You're my brother. You're supposed to protect me." "You did this to yourself," he said calmly. She grabbed his phone and threw it against the concrete wall, shattering it, then drove away before security arrived. Although the phone recording was lost, garage security cameras captured the incident. My husband filed a police report and a warrant was issued. Sarah avoided police for a week. During that time, she created multiple fake social media accounts, flooding our pages and our employers' platforms with accusations. She claimed we had stolen her children and framed her. One account posted edited photos from the courthouse, showing her holding Charlotte and James, claiming they were her kidnapped twins. Some former followers shared the posts. My employer called me in again. "I know this isn't your fault," he said, placing a printed screenshot on his desk, "but these kidnapping claims are affecting the workplace." He offered extended paid leave until the situation resolved. I packed my desk that afternoon, trying to remain composed. Sarah had now disrupted my employment as well. That night, Faye called. "Aunt Emma, Mom's here. She's outside Dad's house. She keeps texting me to let her in." My husband called his brother-in-law immediately while I stayed on the phone with Faye. We could hear Sarah pounding on the door. "She says she has new vitamins for the baby," Faye whispered. "Special ones to make her smart." I told Faye not to open the door and to stay away from windows. Police arrived within minutes and arrested Sarah. She shouted about her rights as a mother and claimed we had conspired against her. Officers found a bottle of unmarked pills in her purse. She spent 2 nights in jail before posting bail. Her attorney argued she was experiencing a mental health crisis. The judge granted bail with conditions, an ankle monitor, and strict no-contact orders. The pills tested positive for a mild sedative, unsuitable for infants, leading to an added charge of attempted child endangerment. As more information surfaced, former friends began distancing themselves. Patricia, who had been housing Sarah, contacted me. She admitted she had believed Sarah's stories until she found her going through prescription medication at 3 a.m. Patricia also discovered Sarah had been using her computer to create fake profiles. She sent us screenshots documenting the activity. We added the material to our growing evidence file. My husband organized everything chronologically in preparation for trial. Meanwhile, we focused on life with the twins. They were healthy, gaining weight, and beginning to smile. Charlotte had my husband's eyes, James had my chin. Each milestone felt meaningful. During a follow-up adoption visit, the same social worker who had investigated Sarah's complaints apologized again. "It's clear those reports were malicious," she said. She also confirmed that Sarah's name had been flagged in their system to prevent future interference. Soon after, Sarah attempted to sue for grandparent rights, claiming we were alienating her from the twins. Our attorney dismissed it as baseless, and the case was thrown out within a week. Still, Sarah began appearing at places she knew we frequented: grocery stores, parks, the pediatrician's office, staying just outside the restraining order distance, but close enough to intimidate. At the park one afternoon, she sat on a bench 50 feet away, staring. Other parents noticed and kept their children away. She later shifted tactics, sending letters through her lawyer claiming she wanted reconciliation. The letters mixed forgiveness with subtle threats, suggesting the twins needed their aunt. We forwarded each one to our attorney and the police. Investigators confirmed they were building a harassment case in addition to the existing charges. Catherine reached out again. Sarah had been texting her from various numbers, offering money for information about my prescriptions. Catherine forwarded screenshots showing increasingly large offers. Meanwhile, Sarah's divorce progressed. Her husband received full custody, with supervised visitation granted to Sarah. He told us she attended only one session, spending the time telling the children that everyone was lying about her. The children were in therapy, particularly Faye, who felt guilty for speaking up. We reassured him we would support her however needed. 2 months after the adoption, Sarah made another serious error. She secured a job at a daycare under her maiden name before her charges were fully processed. Another parent recognized her and alerted management. She was fired immediately, and Child Protective Services were notified. This added another charge. Her lawyer withdrew from the case. At her next hearing, Sarah represented herself. She spoke at length about conspiracies and betrayal until the judge interrupted, appointed a public defender, and ordered a psychiatric evaluation. After the hearing, she approached us in the parking lot. This time, both my husband and I recorded as she spoke. "Enjoy them while you can," she said, glancing toward the twins in their car seats. "You think you've won, but I know things. I know which formula you buy, which diapers you use, where you take them for walks." "Sarah, you're being recorded," my husband said evenly, "and you're violating the restraining order." She laughed. "That joke of a paper? I've broken it a dozen times. Following you is easy when you're predictable." "Thank you for confirming that," I said, stopping the recording. Her expression changed as she realized what she had admitted. She turned toward her car, but court security had already approached. They detained her until police arrived. This time, bail was revoked. The judge cited her confession and repeated violations as grounds to hold her until trial. The following week, her husband brought the children to visit us. It was their first time meeting the twins in person. Faye was gentle and attentive. The other children were curious but cautious. "Mom's in jail?" young James asked quietly. "Yes," his father answered. "She made serious mistakes." "Is it our fault?" Charlotte asked, her face tense with worry. "No," he reassured her. "None of this is your fault. She needs help." The children accepted that explanation and spent the afternoon helping with bottles and playing with toys. It showed us what family gatherings might have looked like if jealousy hadn't overshadowed everything. My mother-in-law visited later that week. She looked exhausted. "I must have failed her somehow," she said softly. "Mental illness doesn't mean you failed," my husband replied. "She made her own choices." We reviewed old photo albums together. Images of Sarah as a smiling child contrasted sharply with the present. My mother-in-law began recognizing early warning signs: uncontrolled anger, manipulation, unexplained incidents others had suffered. "I always excused it," she admitted. The criminal trial was scheduled 6 months later. Sarah's public defender prepared an insanity defense, but the prosecution had substantial evidence: Catherine's testimony, the journal, recorded admissions. Gradually, we settled into stability. We went to parks without scanning for threats. Doctor visits felt safe. Family dinners no longer revolved around Sarah. The twins grew stronger each day. Charlotte observed everything carefully. James charmed everyone with his easy laughter. They were thriving. The daycare center where Sarah had briefly worked sent us a letter explaining new background procedures. They also offered complimentary childcare, which we declined. Trust now required time. Catherine sent one final message saying she was relocating and seeking a fresh start. I chose not to respond. 5 months into Sarah's incarceration, unexpected news arrived. She was pregnant. She had been seeing someone before her arrest. Her husband was distressed. The pregnancy complicated the legal process, as her lawyer argued it supported a mental health defense. The prosecutor maintained her actions showed planning, not instability. We attended each pretrial hearing quietly. Sarah appeared increasingly unwell. During one session, she shouted that we had stolen her life and her children. The judge ordered her removed from the courtroom. A month before trial, she gave birth to a healthy baby girl. She named her Emma. The news unsettled me, but Child Services immediately took custody due to her charges. The infant entered foster care. Her husband decided not to assume custody, explaining his children needed stability. The trial began in February. Charlotte and James were nearly 1 year old. Catherine testified first, describing the blackmail that led her to switch the vitamins. Sarah's husband followed, presenting the journal and recounting years of manipulation. When I testified, I spoke clearly about the stolen names, the vitamin tampering, and the harassment campaign. I shared photos of our healthy children. She wanted me to suffer because I had something she couldn't control, her brother's loyalty, I said calmly. The defense attempted to portray me as vindictive, but the evidence was comprehensive. Emails, falsified medical records, fake accounts, and recorded threats. Sarah insisted the vitamins were harmless and that everyone was conspiring against her. During cross-examination, her statements became inconsistent. Finally, when asked directly whether she tampered with my prenatal vitamins, she paused and said quietly, "She didn't deserve to be a mother." The courtroom reacted immediately. The judge restored order. She had effectively confessed. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. Sentencing was scheduled for the following month. At sentencing, Sarah appeared subdued. Character witnesses spoke. The judge imposed 15 years with eligibility for parole after 7 in a facility offering mental health treatment. As she was led away, she said softly, "Take care of my Emma." I wasn't sure which Emma she meant. 2 weeks later, Child Services contacted us. Baby Emma required permanent placement. Would we consider adoption? We discussed it extensively. In the end, we chose love. 3 months later, Emma joined our family. We kept her first name and gave her the middle name Hope. Sarah's children visited regularly. Faye embraced her role as the oldest cousin. Their father eventually remarried, and stability returned gradually. I returned to work when the twins turned 2 and was welcomed back with a promotion. Life became busy but fulfilling. 3 young children, routines, laughter. We raised them with honesty, explaining family complexities in age-appropriate ways. We emphasize that love is a choice and that someone's inability to love does not define a child's worth. Over time, we received occasional updates about Sarah. She attended therapy and worked in the prison library. Letters to her children were saved for them to open when ready. She never wrote to us. On the twins' 5th birthday, all the cousins gathered. Faye, now older, helped organize games. Emma tried to blow out candles alongside her siblings. The atmosphere was joyful and genuine. That evening, after the children were asleep, my husband and I sat quietly. Peace felt real. The next morning returned us to ordinary routines: breakfast spills, missing shoes, sibling debates, healthy normalcy. Faye texted asking to babysit one day. I smiled and agreed. Sarah had attempted to dismantle our lives. Instead, we built something stronger, anchored in resilience and choice. Her actions fractured relationships, but they also clarified what mattered. When the twins started kindergarten, we stood at the bus stop together. Emma waved tearfully, waiting for her turn in a few years. Later that afternoon, I opened a box in our closet containing ultrasound photos of the babies we had lost. I honored their memory and added new photos: Charlotte, James, and Emma together. Loss and joy can exist in the same space. I closed the box and returned to the present. Downstairs, Emma was calling for a snack. I went to her. We had endured the worst. What remained was simply life, complex, imperfect, and deeply meaningful.